Welcome to Jim's Movin' Picture Show. From The Godfather to Jaws, from Raiders of the Lost Ark to Airplane, from Schindler's List to So I Married an Axe Murderer. It's a movie show that's almost as all over the place as its host.
Hey everyone, welcome to a triple-sized edition of Jim's Movin' Picture Show. And for those of you who are big comic book readers, think of this as the old school annual. You know, the issue that came out once a year. It was always thicker, lots of different stories, sometimes lots of different creative talent even. Think of this as one of those. Now, this is the wrap-up of our comic book month where we are celebrating the release of the new Supergirl movie. It is going to be out on Thursday of this week. We've got tickets for Thursday and we've got tickets for Saturday where we're going to be flying to Oregon to show the grandkids. Terribly excited. But I'm excited for this episode for a lot of reasons because I've been a comic book fan for, well, really since I learned to read. Like that's kind of one of the ways I learned to read. I had subscriptions to Detective Comics, a bunch of Superman comics, and of course G.I. Joe comics. And I don't know that my life would be the same without them. I've never lost my love for them. I revisit old stories. I've moved on from physical copies, but I still keep a lot of memorabilia. And I just love where we've gone as a society. I remember when comic books really were just for kids. And now they're not just mostly for kids. They're for adults too, but they're also just part of the pop culture language. And it went from when I was a kid, you'd get made fun of for reading comic books to now, when you go to sporting events, baseball events, you're going to have superhero tie-ins. Of course, there's movies. Of course, there's TV shows. And I wanted to share with you some of the memorabilia just that I could grab from around my office without even really thinking about it. Now, first of all, I'm wearing the O'Fallon Hoots Batman Night jersey. I mean, how sweet is this? Clearly taking inspiration from the black and the gray comic. Gotta have that oval. The Houston Astros putting out a limited edition Metropolis Meteors jersey. Meteors being the fictional team in the new Superman movie. The Quincy Gems having their Marvel night and playing with a Captain America inspired jersey. The aforementioned Houston Astros put out a bobblehead of the greatest Astro of all time, revealing his S shield because we all know that it's quite likely that Jose Altuve is Kryptonian. And at the minor league level, the Brooklyn Cyclones put out a Superman bobblehead in his Fortress of Solitude located, apparently it's in Brooklyn, who knew? So as a longtime comic book nerd, somebody who's made movies about comics, it's really fun for me to see it just kind of be mainstream. And it feels like a lot of comic fans today are running because I walked. But now let's jump into the main episode, which is a little bit of a longer segment where Andy Tom Chesson, my co-host on Off Day, and I are going to count down our favorite superhero movies. We are wrapping up our superhero month, and we're going to count down our top 10 superhero movies. But Andy, I wanted to talk a little bit, though, with you about one, not just your excitement level for Supergirl, whether that's high or low is I actually don't even really know. But just overall, the direction James Gunn is taking DC compared to what we were getting with the Snyderverse, which I don't think everything the Snyderverse produced was bad. I actually think Man of Steel was a very good movie that would have been made better had it had a better sequel. That felt very much like a first act to me, and I would have loved to have seen and lived in Superman before he was killed in the next movie for some reason. But just overall, kind of where have you felt? What did you feel about Superman 2025, and how do you feel about the direction of where James Gunn has taken the DC?
Well, first of all, James Gunn uses light bulbs, which I appreciate compared to Zack Snyder, who apparently did not get enough light bulb budget. That's all I can assume is happening because why else would you fit everything in the
It
dark?
was dork in those movies.
It was dork. I think that for me, the difference between James Snyder or Zack Snyder and James Gunn, and it really depends on what era of comics you grew up in and what you like. I know you are not a big fan of the Frank Miller run on Batman, for instance.
Sure.
I was a fan, but in my childhood, DC was very bright, very ebullient. I hope our audience of one likes that word as well. Um, Almost to the point where they are criticized at some level in the after the Silver Age of being a little bit too cartoony until some things changed, basically due to market competition and what Marvel was doing.
Right.
And what I like about the James Gunn universe is that it's going back to that time where a concept like the Legion of Superheroes wouldn't be just laughed at, where you had a kid that his superpower was turning into a giant rubber ball, and that was a normal cool thing. And James Gunn, even with his iteration of the Suicide Squad, started delving into the more obscure, more colorful characters that the DC universe had to offer. Zack Snyder stuck to a storyline, or stuck to parts of a storyline from the death of Superman, which is one of the darkest periods of the DC anthology. Um, James Gunn seems to be embracing the fact that there are some serious stories in there and things that need to be told, but there's also this element of fun because it is, at the end of the day, a superhero movie. And
Yeah.
superheroes are meant to uplift, they're meant to inspire, it's not supposed to be subversive.
Yeah.
Uh,
I think
to an
you're
extent.
I think you're like, I don't remember Guardians of the Galaxy in the comics very much, and as far as I remember, those comics were never really terribly successful, right? They kind of rebooted a bunch. The lineup changed a lot,
I
but I mean,
think there were 7 different lineups for Guardians of the
yeah,
Galaxy at some point, and it was like a throw off to um, different, like the New Gods, and well, not the New Gods, but whatever the DC version of Jack Kirby. Jack Kirby used to bounce back and forth between the companies when
he
he,
was like
like
Nolan
Nolan Ryan.
Ryan for
Yeah, not
baseball.
exactly like Nolan Ryan between the Astros and the Rangers. I get
Yeah.
pissed off at you. I'm going to go take my exact same concept with a slightly different name and move it over here.
Over here, yeah. But I like the fact that James Gunn makes a hit out of Rocket Raccoon, right? Like a talking raccoon,
Yeah,
which in comic book movies 10 years before that would have been a non-starter. Like, no. And
kids
then
love Groot.
kids, yeah,
Kids love
or
Groot. It's a tree. It says one thing.
and the Snyder fanboys, the minute they saw Crypto show up, was like, no, this is not going to work. But um, he really did a good job, I think, of walking the line. And I do think that, I think the other thing is Snyder applies his blanket aesthetic to everything that he does. I think James Gunn, particularly maybe not as director, but as producer, because he's producing the Supergirl movie, which already looks quite a bit darker than the Superman movie was. And I have read The Woman of Tomorrow that it's based on, and it is a dark storyline. And yes, the dog lives, by the way, for people watching. Unless they
a dog in a movie.
unless they depart from the graphic novel source material, Crypto absolutely does live. So yeah, I'm fired up about it. I feel for Miley Alcock. I'm sure you've seen some of the things that even Dean Cain has shared tweets about her, comparing her to a monkey. I don't know how Dean Cain has decided to ignore everything that Superman stands for, but that's really been his thing, and it's disgusting.
Well, Dean Cain, I think all you need to know about Dean Cain is that we haven't heard about Dean Cain outside of these comments since Lois and Clark went off the air.
Yeah, he did some low-level B movies, then he did a bunch of Hallmark movies, and then he followed Candace Cameron to that other network because Hallmark movies were too liberal.
Yeah, so
that's a true story.
No, I don't doubt it.
Isn't that fucking crazy?
So he's in movies that Kirk Cameron produces. It's fine.
Yeah, there you go. But
cinema is for everybody.
It is. It should be, and I'm looking forward to it. I'm going to go see it, and then I'm going to fly up to Oregon with Jessica, and we're going to take Lulu and Braxton to see it. We had a great time seeing Superman with them, but we are doing our countdown. So, guests first. What do you have coming at number 10 for your top 10 superhero movies?
Now, I wanted to clarify some rules. Were we limited to DC, Marvel, or was it anything that's
appeared in a comic
superhero?
I'm going to let you go. I'm sticking superhero, but you can do whatever you want as
far
as
the reason I ask is because I usually, when we've had these conversations before, we'll throw Unbreakable in. And it's kind of sitting at 10, 11 right now.
I would allow Unbreakable for that list if you chose it.
But to stick to your rules, I'm going to replace it with Logan. because I think
Okay.
Logan was one of the best of the X-Men entries into that franchise, which I think spanned 12 films at the end of the day.
You know who
Um,
loves them? My wife loves all of those movies.
See, some of them, I will say X2 was a really, really good movie. And it was one of the first superhero movies, especially from the Marvel side of things, that really made you think that you could translate what you were seeing from a page onto screen well. And there were obviously some examples of doing that before. Superman 78, Batman 89. Obviously, those things happen. Spider-Man and Spider-Man 2 to some extent, but X2 was the first team concept you had with a multiple characters, different personalities. Um, Brian Singer got some things wrong, like the black leather stuff, which is, I think, his personal hang up. But Logan was a
Turns
great
out.
back to the, yeah. Logan was actually a great story about facing mortality, facing end of life, facing aging from a character that doesn't do any of those things historically.
Mhm.
I mean, if you follow Wolverine's path in life, he predates the Revolutionary War,
Yeah.
eh, which you find out, after the character's been around for 50, 60 years. Anyway, it was just a very powerful movie for me. I really liked it. I like obviously some things better because it's number 10 on my list, but I think Logan's my first entry here.
All right, my first entry is Captain America Civil War. And I love that movie so much. It's actually better, I think, than the comic series, and we could have an offline conversation about that. But Captain America Civil War is everything Batman versus Superman wanted to be, except that Zack Snyder forgot that you had to be invested in those characters for it to matter that they're fighting. And I think there's a tremendous amount of humanity in that movie. I think it's absolutely heartbreaking when Steve says he's my friend and Tony says so was I, because Tony had been this character that never needed anybody in all of his other movies. Um, and we obviously learn about Tony later on going on, but in fact, Tony's character arc in Endgame, right? Of remember Captain America in the first Avengers movie, you're not the guy to make the big save. Well, it
Right.
turns out he is. But um, I just thought it was such a really elevated superhero cinema to show you that it can be just more about guys in tights fighting. So coming in, Civil War.
He's my friend. So was I. Stay down. Final warning. I could do this all day.
What do you have at number 9?
One that I know you have ranked higher in your personal list, but Superman 78. So at the time when it came out,
Andy,
Star
coming in
Wars.
at number 9 for me is Superman 78.
Wow.
My list is different. We share number 9. So
So
let you
I
tell me why
I
it's
know
9 for you.
nothing, evidently.
Yeah, tell me why it's
No,
number
Superman
9 for you.
78 was, as much as I liked, X2 for what it did for comic book movies, Superman 78 was the first real comic book movie. It was the first real superhero movie. The tagline on the poster is "You will believe a man can fly," and you did. And for a kid that was 7 years old when this movie came out, saw it in theaters. It was mind blowing, in the same way that Star Wars was mind blowing a year earlier. And it's lower on my list now because I don't think Margot Kidder hasn't aged well. And not Margot Kidder, the actress, because she obviously stopped aging at some point. Rest in peace. But the concept of Margot Kidder as Lois Lane did
Yeah.
not age well.
I think that's why you're right. Any iteration of this list, it might have been number one, but it has fallen for me. And I think that is why. I think that the Lois Lane character, especially, a character that was written in the 70s when we really were at the height of like women's liberation. She's just not she's not written very compellingly. And then when I rewatched the movie, I think first of all, the end is dumb. The time travel thing is dumb. And we know why, because it wasn't supposed to be the end of that movie. It's supposed to be the end of Superman 2. It would have been a dumb ending in Superman 2. It's just what they had already shot. But anyway,
Well,
but when I
Superman
watched
2 didn't make my list. Superman 2 didn't make my list, but I will say this. Margot Kidder actually got worse as the movies went on. That
She does.
character got worse as the movies went on.
Well, they skip her in 3. Remember, she
Right.
leaves at the big. Yeah, they don't even have her in 3. But to me, when I watch the movie, I also think about the actors who could have played her. Stockard Channing was supposed to play her.
I'd kind of like to wait until we know something for sure before we start planning.
Leslie Ann Warren was supposed to play her. Like, all of those choices would have been supremely better. So now I can't watch that movie without thinking about it. So I obviously still adore it. It's still in my top 10, but it's not even the highest Superman movie on my list.
Well, it's an unfair comparison too, but when you watch Rachel Brosnahan and what she did in the most recent Superman movie
Yeah.
with the Lois Lane character and different writers, different era, all that, that's the Lois Lane that I remember. Even looking back at the TV show that was filmed in the 50s, she wasn't what Margot Kidder was.
Yeah, you're right. Even in the 50s, she was a smart, capable reporter.
Right.
Even Kate Bosworth was better. Even Amy Adams was better. Kate Bosworth suffered, I think, from maybe being too young to have played her. Like,
Yeah.
I think there was a little
Especially
bit
since you're technically revisiting a relationship.
yeah, she would have known Superman for like 7 years. She looked 23 in that movie. So, yeah, so that's a big reason why it fell for me, but still coming in at number 9.
Easy, miss. I've got you.
You've got me. Who's got you? I can't believe it. I just cannot believe it. He got her.
All right, number 8 for you.
Spider-Man Homecoming.
All right.
So this was the first Spider-Man film for me that actually felt like a Spider-Man film. And I know there are people who love the Tobey Maguire films. There are some people who, I guess, like the Andrew Garfield films. I don't know who those people are. I don't even think I ever saw the second one.
The second one's terrible. The first one's revisited. It's actually worth you revisiting.
It made no impression on me. That's kind of where I can watch a bad film and remember the Andrew Garfield first film, nothing. Amazing Spider-Man, I don't remember a thing from it. I could watch it right now and go, oh, I think I've seen this before. Don't know. Anyway, Spider-Man Homecoming was the first time that I really felt they captured the Peter Parker from the 60s, the science nerd who was ostracized, I know they changed the story with Uncle Ben and Aunt May, but it still felt authentic to the original source material in a way that the other two films really didn't. I also like that we didn't spend a lot of time rehashing the origin. And I say this because if you're going to watch the Guardians of the Galaxy and you never heard of these characters before, yeah, you need some backstory to figure out what's going on. I don't think there are very many people in the United States in 2020, what was the 2018 when that came out, that didn't know the Spider-Man story. The same way that I get irritated with Batman movies when they have to retell. Guess what? His parents got murdered. Depending on what comic book you want to read, it was one of 3 guys. They did it. He gets his vengeance later on in life. He's afraid of bats, or he's not afraid of bats. He has a cave. He doesn't have a cave. We all know the story. Spider-Man is very similar.
Yeah.
He got bit by a spider. His uncle dies because he's a selfish prick. And this was the aftermath of that with a kid that was already repentant for actions he had taken, not that killed Uncle Ben, but just everything about the emotional toll that this teenager was carrying really resonated with me from the original character. And even some of the changes they made with the costuming and those kind of things, I was able to kind of put that aside and really appreciate the story being told from the point of view of a kid that's supposed to be 15 or 16 years old.
Yeah, that's a great call. That's a great call. I think I've actually liked all of the current run. I'm very excited about the new one. Um, very much dug Spider-Man Homecoming. Coming at number 8 for me is the 1989 Batman movie. I think I know all the problems. He can't turn his head, can't all that stuff. I still think Michael Keaton's the best one to play Batman. And I just think I remember that movie. I mean, go back to when that came out. Like you and I were at the right time. Like that was the entire culture of that summer was that movie.
Yeah.
And I remember, I'm sure you felt similarly, having been a comic fan long before that, there was a certain degree of vindication of, yeah, like I've been telling you, this stuff is cool. And now you can see that it's cool. And, we've gone from you and I growing up in an era where you got picked on if you read comics to they're all over the movies to now minor league baseball teams have comic book nights and they play in uniform. Like it's part of that evolution. But to me, I think for as much as I think Tim Burton plays a little too fast and loose with the actual legend of Batman, talking about who killed his parents, I think that movie is awesome.
There are point in time movies for me, and Batman '89 was one of them. I had just graduated from high school, go St. Pius. I was working at Willowbrook Mall. I had made friends, as one does when you work in a mall food court, with the people who ran the theater. Movie theaters used to be in malls, guys, and it was a whole thing. You could spend all day at the mall if you wanted to.
We still go to one.
People willingly did this.
Yeah.
And that was the one movie that my contacts couldn't get tickets for, no matter how much food I was willing to slide them in the mall food court black market. But we still got set up. I remember getting off of work and getting in for the 9:30 showing because I was young enough to go to a movie at 9:30 at night. I look at those people now that are going to the theater as I'm leaving the theater and like, what's wrong with you people?
I know. Oh yeah. We don't even talk about a screening that's after 7:30. We don't even talk about it.
Yeah, it's ridiculous. But that was just that whole summer was Batman '89, from the Prince soundtrack to all of the merchandising, I think with Taco Bell being prominent amongst those. But Batman was everywhere in a way that I don't know has really been recaptured since then.
They try, and it just doesn't seem to work. And just think about this before we go to your next one. What if the internet had existed when Michael Keaton was cast? It would have melted down.
Oh yeah,
Mr. Mom.
No, Keaton was a fantastic Bruce Wayne.
Fantastic.
Don't kill me! Don't kill me, man! Don't kill me! Don't kill me, man!
I'm not going to kill you. I want you to do me a favor. I want you to tell all your friends about me.
What are you?
I'm Batman.
All right. So what do you have as number 7?
Thor Ragnarok.
Oh.
So Thor to me is always this weird character, and he was always a weird character in the comics. And the first couple of movies kind of reiterated just the weirdness of Thor. He is basically a Shakespearean actor in a superhero's body, man-child, all of the things. And Ragnarok was the first time that I think they actually captured a character that was palpable for the American palate. It was a great story. It moved quick kick-ass soundtrack with a bunch of Led Zeppelin tracks in the right places. a very visual bad guy that you could work against. I mean, just all the fun elements of this list, and there's a few of them, but this was the most popcorny superhero movie that I can imagine, where you're just eating, munching, and having a good time. Very few flaws in the movie. There's not enough history for most people with Thor to care about. Well, this wasn't really what happened in Ragnarok, and the people who really care about it are really into Norse mythology anyway, and you don't have to spend time with those individuals.
I wouldn't say suggest it.
You shouldn't.
I
But
can tell you,
it's a super fun movie.
I can tell you Jessica loved it, and that's a big stretch because Thor was a big stretch for her. Thor is a little too out there for her.
Yeah.
Love the movie.
Oh, where have you been? Everybody thought you were dead. There's so much has happened since I last saw you. I lost my hammer, like yesterday, so that's still pretty fresh. Loki's alive. Can you believe it? He's up there. Loki, look who it is. Oh, Banner, I never thought I would say this, but I'm happy to see you. Banner. Hey, Banner.
No Banner, only Hulk.
What are you doing? It's me.
And I know that we're going to be getting into some duplicates as we start to run into. So still feel free to give your reasons why. You can wait till, like, if I pick one next that's going to be on your list later on, you don't have to comment if you don't want to. My number 7, Avengers Endgame, and I know it's going to be higher for some people, probably higher on your list if we get going. Obviously has some cool moments, still has some story flaws, but when you think about the movie making process and the Herculean task that was, to be able to stick the landing like they did, despite some of the storytelling flaws they created for themselves with the time travel thing, just I don't know that there's few movie moments that get a theater going more than Cap catching I mean, it's like I've got hair on the back of my neck thinking about it, tears in my eyes when Cap catches the hammer and tells the Avengers to assemble. You know, you've even got the filmmakers now, Andy, that because the same guys making Doomsday and Secret War saying we're not going to be able to equal that, so don't look for that.
Yeah,
and I think that tells you just how important that movie was.
Yeah, it is on my list a little bit later, but there are very few movies that you will see that capture the cultural zeitgeist the way that film did. And I know that from the standpoint of sitting in a theater multiple times with other people who had rewatched it and still get the same amount of cheers and the same amount of audience togetherness in the enjoyment of a film. The time travel piece, could talk about it again. If you're going to commit to setting up rules for time travel, you don't have to follow those rules for time travel, which they chose not to. Which maybe they're going to address in Doomsday. I don't know, but that it didn't bother me at the time. I'll say that.
Avengers!
Assemble.
Captain America: Winter Soldier.
Okay.
When we talked about this before, and if you asked me on a given day, some of these 10, and maybe you would add 2 more, would rotate in and out depending on where they are. Captain America: Winter Soldier. I'm just going to call it Winter Soldier. I think is the best Captain America movie. I think it is the best film, period, from the Marvel Universe before you got to the Endgame Infinity Saga or Endgame and Infinity War movies. It is watchable and rewatchable, even to the point now of if you walked in knowing nothing about any of these characters, it's fully self-contained and yet it expands so much of the universe that it's really one of the pivotal movies in that 20 movie run that led up to, or that was the Infinity Saga. But just captured so much about the Captain America that I love from the comic books. The conflict with being a man at a time, the introduction of the Falcon and the way they did that, the reluctantly working with Natasha Romanoff, and the redemption arc that they tried to create for Bucky. All of those things in that movie together. Not to mention, it was a pretty good spy movie.
That's the thing. Yeah. It's higher on my list, so I'll break down that a little bit more, but you're exactly right. These movies function better when they really are combining another genre with also the comic book characters, and I think Winter Soldier absolutely does that. My number 6 actually kind of snuck up on me. I wasn't sure I was going to like it as much as I was. The runtime is long and bloated, but coming in at number 6 for me is Robert Pattinson's The Batman. It's not the highest Batman movie on my list, but I could make the argument that it should be. I think it's the one Batman movie where really the focus is him being a detective. And some of the little things they created, like the contact lens that's recording everything, like why wouldn't he have that, right? Like, why wouldn't he have a way where he could go back later on and then redo his entire night to see what he missed? Like, those are little things that even the comics never dove into something like that, and they should have. I think Pattinson, did a great job as Batman, and I think for Matt Reeves to create a movie that kept me glued to my seat for almost 3 hours, that got me excited following, like there's a saying in sports, Andy, that you don't want to be the guy that follows you don't want to be the guy that follows the guy. You want to be the guy that follows the guy that follows the guy. To follow Nolan's Batman movie up with that film, and then all praise to Colin Farrell as the Penguin, one of the phenomenal makeup and acting jobs in cinema. So that's where I got coming in at the Batman. What do you have next for you?
I mean, to the point that most people don't know that was Colin Farrell.
I love to show my kids, like, what if I told you the Penguin was super handsome, and then they don't believe you, and then you show them the photo and you're like, oh, okay.
Next for me, Guardians of the Galaxy, the first one. I think this was just an outstanding piece of storytelling, from the choices of the soundtrack to the choices of the setting to the choices of how they introduced the character. Everything about the film was fun. Again, self-contained, although it led to a larger piece of the universe. There felt like there were real stakes in the movie. It wasn't afraid to be silly. I mean, Peter Quill saves the universe in a dance-off. That's the thing. Even Lee Pace, who gets kind of beat on because of he's basically playing an emotionless guy. Well, the Kree soldiers were emotionless guys. The head of the Kree soldiers was the most emotionless guy. I think that's how he became the head of the Kree soldiers. But it was just a super fun movie, and really opened your eyes if you weren't familiar with James Gunn about what he could do with even characters that nobody had heard of. This wasn't Thor where you kind of knew what it was, but I wasn't into it. This is, you had to be a real comic head to even have heard of the Guardians of the Galaxy. And most people, when they announced they were releasing it, were like, what? Those are people they created to make the Silver Surfer have people to talk to out in space.
things are gonna get easier. Ooh, child, things will get brighter. Listen to these words. Ooh, child, things are gonna get easier. Ooh, child, things will get brighter. Now bring it down hard. Someday, we'll put it together.
What are you doing?
Dance off, bro. Me and you. Come on. Subtle. Take it back.
What are you doing?
I'm distracting you, you big turd blossom.
Yeah. I will say this, the other thing that the Guardians of the Galaxy gave us, and I thought the movie was fantastic, was it gave us one of the best jokes in Parks and Rec when they had to address the fact that he got shredded. And so at one point, Adam Scott's character said, "So you just stopped drinking beer?" "Yeah, I drank a lot of beer." And that was exactly how to express the fact that from across seasons, he went from being, Andy to being Andy.
So the only thing you did was stop drinking beer?
Yeah, I lost 50 pounds in 1 month.
How much beer were you drinking?
I know, right? Probably too much.
Next one for me was probably the movie in some ways that I was waiting for the most of my life. And that's Captain America, the First Avenger. To give me a Captain America movie in World War II was always, because there had been Captain America movies before. We remember the one from the 70s where the shield was also the windscreen on the motorcycle for some reason, to the Roger Corman.
It was clear plexiglass.
Was clear plexiglass. To, fighting street level crime, which was never really supposed to be Captain America's thing. He's a super soldier after all.
And he fought Nazis.
To the one that came out in the 90s direct to video where for some reason they gave him rubber ears because his ears couldn't stick out of the cowl thing. It so many ways was the movie I was waiting for the most. I remember being disappointed at first at Chris Evans's casting because John Krasinski was originally the front man, and I was really thought he could have nailed that part, but not Chris. Did I say Chris? Yeah, Chris Evans. So all in all, I love the movie, everything about it, and the fact that they really were ballsy enough to keep the entire film during World War II. And a less brave set of filmmakers would have, made that like the forward of the movie and made the rest of it take place in current time. So that's it for me at number 5.
I can do this all day.
Oh, of course you can, of course. But unfortunately, I am on a tight schedule.
All right, so next up I cheated, and I'm just going to combine the two movies, but Infinity War and Endgame, to me, are one long film in kind of the same way that Quentin Tarantino is currently trying to sell Kill Bill as one long film. I think these two are actually one long film. I will say this because we already talked about Endgame. When it comes to Infinity War, as far as audience engagements, it is rare to be in a movie theater and have everybody experiencing the same thing at the same time.
Yeah.
And at the end of that film, watching people that audiences have become attached to over at that point 17 or 18 films just disappear. And especially the way some of those actors delivered those lines and delivered those performances, you really left the theater gutted.
Tom Holland.
Tom Holland being primary amongst those, and the way that Robert Downey Jr.'s Iron Man or Tony Stark reacted to that. I mean, just all of that together was it was gutting, but gutting in the best possible way.
Yeah.
Because if that movie doesn't work, and I know one of the arguments about Endgame is it took away all the stakes from Infinity War. Well, those characters were always going to come back, guys. They weren't going to kill Spider-Man.
No.
Sorry.
Especially when you read the trades and Tom Holland had a 3-movie deal and only one of those movies had come out. Come on.
Sorry.
Yeah.
And I know that's one of the arguments about this is genres. There's very little stakes, but that movie, even though you knew what was going to happen later, gave it stakes. And I think that's a triumph in this genre.
Yeah.
And then Endgame, as we've talked about, just took that with all of it. I know we use fan service as a derogatory term sometimes, but fan service in the best possible way. That's how that's how you experience that audience engagement that we experienced in both of those movies.
Yeah, all I'll say about that is I love that you combined them. I think in some ways, Infinity War is the better film from beginning, middle, and end.
100%.
Um, but just again, for us to be men in our when they came out, our mid to late 40s, and finally getting to see this stuff that we had seen in our heads for all our lives. Like to me, it's a beautiful thing. And when I hear people say that superhero cinema is dead, you and I have lived through the death of superhero cinema at least 9 times. So if you tell compelling stories, it doesn't die.
You tell compelling stories, you make good films, it doesn't matter what the genre is.
Exactly.
I don't think there is superhero fatigue as much as there are bad movie fatigue.
There was no other way.
Does it start? I don't feel so good.
You're all right.
I don't know what's happening. I don't know. Hurry. I don't want to go. I don't want to go, sir. Please. Please, I don't want to go. I don't want to go. Sorry.
Now, coming in for me at number 4 was the aforementioned Captain America: Winter Soldier. That's 3 Captain America movies in my top 10. And all I will add to that is what I love about it is you see Steve's life in some ways really fall apart in that movie. At the beginning, he has thrown himself into being Captain America, Agent of S.H.I.E.L.D. There's even the joke as he's jumping off the plane with no parachute of, the girl in the accounting would call if you don't ask, if you asked, if she'd go out with you if you asked. And he said, that's why I don't ask. And he jumped off the plane. To see his life kind of fall apart a little bit, and not really get put back together until Civil War. But I think everything you said about the movie is nails as well. It's a really good spy thriller. It feels like an old movie from the 50s in that way. And I think also really dealing with the needs of patriotism. So there you go. What do you got for number 3?
And you bring Robert Redford back to the screen.
Yes. In a freaking Marvel movie. Like they did that. They brought Harrison Ford back. Like these guys they're good at this.
Robert Redford, I mean, Days of the Condor, Robert Redford is integral to American cinema. You bring him into a Marvel movie, it gives it legitimacy, but it also gives some gravitas to a bad guy, which otherwise would have been pretty cartoony.
Mm-hmm.
I'm going to sit there and do this with my hands a lot. I mean, that's that character could have been, twirling the mustache.
You do anything fun Saturday night?
Well, all the guys from my barbershop quartet are dead, so no, not really.
Coming up on the drop zone, Cap.
You know, if you ask Kristen out from Statistics, she'd probably say yes.
That's why I don't ask.
Too shy or too scared?
Too busy.
Is he wearing a parachute?
No. No, he wasn't.
My number 3, is that where we are?
We are.
3, is Iron Man. I think, it's obviously the movie that kicked off the MCU, and I don't for one second buy that there was some 20 film plan when they released this movie. I know that Kevin Feige likes to pretend. I know that Kevin Feige likes to pretend that all the Easter eggs that he's laid were all on purpose, but this movie, you can look at it at the beginning of that run. You can look at it as a standalone movie. This reinvigorated the genre after one of the many deaths that we've been talking about. There was Spider-Man fatigue. Both the Fantastic Four movies were bad or did not do well commercially. I'll argue that the first one was an okay movie. The Batman movies had gotten a little bit stale. Superman was kind of off in the ether. And you had this character which prior to this, and I don't care what the apologists say, Iron Man is a B character in the Marvel universe, or at least was up to this point. I know he's not now.
Frankly, every character Marvel had control of was a B character because they licensed off all their A characters.
Exactly. Spider-Man and X-Men belong to somebody else.
And Fantastic Four belong to somebody else.
But you have a self-contained movie that was tight, it was direct, it was fun, it was irreverent. It didn't poke fun at itself. It took the material seriously. And I mean, obviously, the thing that made that all work was Robert Downey Jr. and his performance. I think there are some actors who are born to play roles. I know that Harrison Ford has had many great roles, but he's born to be Han Solo. And you could make the argument that Indiana Jones as well. But in that same way, Robert Downey Jr. was born to play Tony Stark.
Yes.
I don't know. I don't know that you could put another actor in and have that same result that you had with that. But that kicked off an entire renaissance in this particular genre, and made people believe, from a financing standpoint, that you can make these movies and have them be successful again. But from an audience standpoint, that this is really fun material. It's really fun source material, and there's so much of it that they can call on. It also, unlike the X-Men movies that we talked about, was not ashamed to be a comic book movie. So he was in red and gold armor because that's what you would do if you were a stealth rocket flying through the night. Right?
I'm just not the hero type, clearly, with this laundry list of character defects, all the mistakes I made, largely public. Yeah, okay. Yeah. Truth is, I am Iron Man.
All right. My number 3 came out from the same year. And it's interesting because in so many ways, Iron Man was this perfect example of a comic book movie. And it made a lot of money. And then the movie that followed it completely turned comic books on its head, made twice the money, and actually pissed Robert Downey Jr. off. And that was The Dark Knight. I think, we talked about Avengers, Captain America, Winter Soldier being a great spy movie. This is a great crime thriller that just happened to have a guy as the lead detective who dressed around as a bat. Heath Ledger's Joker, Academy recognized performance. To me, there's really not a lot to say about the movie. It's almost perfect in my mind. And somehow it's like respect for that movie seems to have faded. And then you go back and rewatch it and you realize, no, that movie was brilliant. So that was my numero tres.
Well, I wish I had something good to give you for number 2, but guess what my number 2 was? The Dark Knight. So,
The Dark Knight. Well, what are your thoughts on The Dark Knight then?
Certainly the highlight of that trilogy. I really enjoyed Batman Begins, and I feel like I'm in the minority when that conversation comes up, because I think in some ways it was as good a film. The difference was Heath Ledger's Joker and The Dark Knight was a superior character to Ra's al Ghul. And the League of Shadows and all of that stuff is kind of hard to follow unless you're very deep into the comic books. I will give credit to Nolan for embracing that in the first movie, but The Dark Knight was a kind of a perfect consumable bite. It is intimately rewatchable. Both the protagonist and the antagonist were at the height of their prowesses, so to speak. And there felt like, again, there were real stakes in the movie. And again, I think it comes down, most of these movies come down to how good the bad guy is. I don't think Infinity War and Endgame are as good if Thanos isn't good, if Josh Brolin isn't really good in that role. The Dark Knight isn't as good a film if Heath Ledger isn't just knocking it out of the park as a Joker who is not Cesar Romero. It's not your dad's Joker. It's not Jack Nicholson. It is a guy who just wants to see shit burn.
Yeah.
There's no plan to take over the bank or to hide the money or to whatever the things that would have happened with earlier iterations of that character. It was truly an insane person and possibly the most rational person, the ultimate attacker, having to stop that insanity and understand how to stop it. So it's, it's not number 2 on my list for a reason. It's one of the best movies of this genre made, but it's one of the best movies of that decade that were made.
Hi. You know, I don't want there to be any hard feelings between us, Harvey. When you and Rachel! Rachel were being abducted, I was sitting in Gordon's cage. No, I didn't rig those charges.
Your man, your plan.
Do I really look like a guy with a plan? You know what I am? I'm a dog chasing cars. I wouldn't know what to do with one if I caught it.
Coming in for number 2 is probably the newest movie on the list, and that's the movie that's only a year old. I've got Superman 2025. Superman has always been my guy. I don't know why I was so connected to him all my life, but I just think that James Gunn did such a good job of nailing the humanity of the character and what it's like to try to fit into a place you don't fit in, but also try to be that person's that culture's hero or that icon. And I think the whole point of Superman is aspirational, about making us all want to find that thing in us that makes us special and make us do good for other people. I love that he saves the squirrel. And I think that I absolutely bawled in the film when he said, we put on image of your parents. We know it cheers you up, and it's different parents at the end of the movie. It's his Earth parents, not anymore. Like James Gunn got what Zack Snyder didn't get. Is he's Superman because of his Earth parents. He's not Superman because of his Kryptonian parents. And I think the speech with Lex at the end about that's what makes me human. That to me, and it shows you how far we've fallen as a culture when there are people that see that as weakness, and I see it as a strength. So Superman 2025 is my numero dos.
That is where you've always been wrong about me, Lex. I'm as human as anyone. I love, I get scared. I wake up every morning, and despite not knowing what to do, I put one foot in front of the other, and I try to make the best choices I can. I screw up all the time. But that is being human. And that's my greatest strength. And someday, I hope, for the sake of the world, you understand that it's yours too.
So are you implying that Zack Snyder fans are all MAGA?
It feels that way.
I would say the fervor is similar.
The ones that are online saying bring back the Snyderverse and don't even want to acknowledge that anytime Superman movie is getting made, it's a good thing for Superman fans. Yeah, those are the ones that are definitely MAGA. What do you have at number 2?
Well, to comment on Superman 25, I think that one of the things that James Gunn is allowed to do is, I was joking about the light bulbs, but bring the color back to Superman. And that's in not just visually, but from a personality standpoint, from this fish out of water standpoint, to the conflict that character has always had, integral to itself. Of I'm a man out of time, a man out of place, but I'm also human because I've been raised by these two people who were the most human people possible. Even though one was named Martha. By the way, Captain America's mom was named Sarah, never a Martha involved. I don't think there was a Martha in the entire Marvel universe, which is probably why the film part has done well. But just the amount of hope that is placed on that character's shoulders, and that Superman delivered for the first time in a few Superman films was what did that for me.
The thing that was
number one for me.
Before you go to your number 1, I want to make one rebuttal or comment on that. The end of every Christopher Reeves movie is always ended the same. He's flying through space. He looks at the camera and he smiles.
Mm-hmm.
And we have shots in James Gunn's Superman of him flying around, smiling. He enjoys being Superman. Zack Snyder's never did. Your number 1, sir.
Departure from the rest of these because they're all live action. Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse, the original Spider-Verse film. I have thoughts on the Miles Morales character, and I don't know that they're controversial because I don't keep up with other people's thoughts on this. But in a lot of ways, Miles Morales is a better character than Peter Parker. It's maybe a more modern take. Maybe it's, they're telling a lot of the same story in a lot of the same ways with just different pieces. But Into the Spider-Verse was the first time that I think I ever really saw a comic book on the screen. And it was so impactful, so well done. Great animation is an art form that I think is very hard for some films to even achieve, live action films. So
Sure.
the way that they captured that and told a cohesive story that was fun, that had suspense, that had stakes, um, and just was made you feel something um, in a way. And again, my list moves depending on the mood I'm in today. Today, that's the number one. Tomorrow, it might be number three. Um, I am bummed eternally that I don't think the third one is ever going to come out because I think it's been pushed to like 2032 now.
Oh, really?
Yeah, and we'll see if that even ever happens. But this was just a revelation into the framed comic page that I grew up reading, and remembering how incredible it was that there were certain artists that could go past those frames and go across gutters and bleed across entire spreads for their artwork. Taking that and putting it on the screen was
Yeah.
just so much fun. And it was such a good movie, and it's intimately so rewatchable.
Infinitely
Anytime that it happens to pop on, and it's an experience I don't think people have much anymore because of streaming and the way we consume television now. Um, there's not a lot of live TV watching. So when you talk about a movie being just popping on and flipping channels to catch something and I just sit down and watch it, that used to be a reality. Now you have to actively seek that out a lot of the times. Unless you have, TBS or the USA Network, in which case they're going to replay movies forever.
Forever.
Miles? Are you okay?
Yeah, I'm okay. You're probably busy, so...
No. I can talk. Look, so I came by earlier because, your uncle...
I know, Dad. I'm so sorry.
Yeah.
Do you know who did it?
I thought I did, but I was wrong. Look, Miles, what I said at the door, it wasn't just talk. Look, I was thinking maybe we could run a nice wall, privately owned, like at the police station.
All right.
And you could throw up some of your art. Man, I'm good at this. Okay, Miles, you there? Oh, come on, man, see mobile.
Officer?
Spider-Man. Listen, down there, that was, I mean, I owe you. Okay.
I don't know if you can even guess what my number one is. So my number one, oh my God, it's The Crow. Yes. My number one is The Crow. And it's I think, a darkly beautiful film. I watch it at least once a year. I actually remember seeing the movie at theaters with your brother. And then it was your brother and I and a bunch of people. And then they went and did something else and I went and watched it again. And in many ways influenced my own filmmaking. I think it's beautiful. I think it's dark. I think as someone who's still passionately in love with his wife, I can absolutely see going on a murderous rampage if somebody touched a hair on her head. So if you haven't seen The Crow, it's definitely influenced by Batman 89. Part of that sort of second golden age, I guess, of superhero cinema. But yeah, The Crow, number one. You have any thoughts on Brandon Lee? Pour one out.
It's a really interesting movie beyond the mythology of the movie. It's so well done. It is a darker film than a lot of the ones that are on my list, and even a lot of the ones that you talked about.
Yeah.
And it borrowed, like you said, a lot of the scenery or filmography from Batman, but there was a lot of films that were borrowing from Batman 89 at that time. But The Crow would be considered an alternate character because it wasn't from one of the two big houses. And it told kind of this tragic story. And then you add the actual mythology on top of that of what happened to Brandon Lee during filming, and having that film still be cohesive and feel like a total story, to the point that you probably didn't even need to make the second Crow movie, guys.
Or the fourth one. Certainly didn't need to remake it.
None of that. No, it's a good choice, but we have had this conversation before, so I kind of knew what number one was going to be, especially when it didn't show up at number two.
Well,
I'd like you to meet two buddy slang.
We never miss.
Try hard. Try again. Victims. Aren't we all?
So thanks again, Andy, for jumping on Jim's Moving Picture Show. Now, before we go, we've had a great response to our comic book countdown to the release of Supergirl. But a lot of people were like, where's the episode counting down your 10 favorite superhero movies? That's what you do on this show. Well, of course we're going to finish with that. That's what you close with. But the other thing that was happening was everybody was sending in their list. So I thought I would take some time to actually read some of the countdown lists for some of the friends of mine from all different walks of life with very different views on what their favorite comic book movies were. So as we begin our list of comic book movies from people from other walks of life, we begin with producer of this show and producer of most of the things in my life, my wife Jessica. Starting at number 10, she has Spider-Man 2. Number 9, X-Men 2, X-Men United. Number 8, Logan. Number 7, Infinity War and Endgame. She's borrowed Andy's strategy of combining the two movies. Number 6, Shazam. Number 5, Guardians of the Galaxy. Number 4, Deadpool makes an appearance. Number 3, Superman 2025. Number 2, The Crow. And number 1, The Dark Knight. Next up, we have actor, producer, model, filmmaker, Hoyt Richards. His countdown begins with Guardians of the Galaxy, and then Spider-Man 2, Batman Begins, The Dark Knight, Superman the movie from 1978, Logan makes another appearance on our lists, Captain America Civil War, Avengers Endgame, The Batman, and Iron Man. And I'm pretty sure I gave this dude his first comics. My brother Tim, coming in at number 10, The Rocketeer, which is an excellent choice. Number 9, Batman 89. Number 8, Batman Mask of the Phantasm. Number 7, Superman 2. Number 6, From Hell. Number 5, Blade. Number 4, he went the Andy Tom Chesson route and combined Infinity War and Endgame. I really need to establish better rules for my lists. Number 3, Captain America Winter Soldier. Number 2, Spider-Man 2, and number 1, The Dark Knight. Next up is musician and teacher Craig Harmon. Coming in at number 10, Shazam. Number 9, Big Hero 6. Number 8, X-Men Days of Future Past. Number 7, Black Panther makes his first appearance. Number 6, The Big Blue Boy Scout is back with Superman 1978. Number 5, Captain America Winter Soldier. Number 4, Wonder Woman makes her debut. Number 3, Logan. Number 2, Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse. And number 1, Batman 1989. Next up, one of my favorite film students of all time, who's going to be beginning his film school career at the University of Texas this fall. Comes in with number 10, Batman Begins. Then Captain America, The Winter Soldier. Then The Crow. I like to think I introduced him to that movie. Next up, Guardians of the Galaxy, then Avengers Infinity War, then Batman Mask of the Phantasm, great call, Superman 2025, next up, Spider-Man 2 from Sam Raimi, The Batman, and coming in at number 1, The Dark Knight. Next up, one of my oldest friends, Houston fireman Doug Descant. So number 10, Unbreakable, number 9, Superman 2025, number 8, Captain America Civil War. Number 7, Avengers Age of Ultron. Number 6, The Avengers. Number 5, The Batman. Number 4, The Dark Knight Trilogy, which I'll allow since we're combining Endgame and Infinity War. Number 3, Avengers Endgame. Number 2, Batman 1989. And I've known Doug almost all his life, so it does not surprise me that Superman 1978 is still number 1 on his list. Next up is filmmaker and film studies extraordinaire Carlo Rodriguez. At number 10, Avengers Endgame. At number 9, Batman Begins. Number 8, Spider-Man No Way Home. Number 7, Captain America Civil War. Number 6, Iron Man. Number 5, Blade makes his first appearance. Number 4, Captain America Winter Soldier. Number 3, The Avengers. Number 2, The Dark Knight. And for the first time on anyone's list, number 1, Superman 2. I did not make him specify which cut, whether it be the original cut or the Richard Donner cut. Next up, we have actor, filmmaker, and massive comic book fan Adam Hampton. Coming at number 10, he's got the movie Sin City. At number 9, the movie Watchmen. Number 8, Batman v Superman. Number 7, The Batman. Number 6, Captain America Winter Soldier. And at number 5, he has a tie. And I wasn't going to allow a tie because that's like kissing your sister. But since we've got people putting entire trilogies as one list, and we've got people that are combining movies, we're going to let him have his tie. So he's got tied for 5th, The Dark Knight and Avengers Infinity War. Number 4, Spider-Man 2. Number 3, The Avengers. Number 2, Man of Steel. And number 1, Superman, the movie from 1978. All right, so thanks for everybody that contributed. Thank you to Andy. Thank you for watching. We'll be back next week as we count down the movies that make me feel American as we get ready to celebrate the 250th birthday of this country. And I know we have a lot of problems in this country right now, but it is possible to not like the administration and still love your country. It's what I do every day. We're a work in progress, but we're still a country that people are coming here. They risk lives to come here. If you watch the reaction of people traveling from out of the country from the World Cup and see what we have, it makes you think we shouldn't take it for granted. At least I hope it's making you think we shouldn't take it for granted. It's the kind of country where some jackass like me can turn on a camera and say whatever he wants to without fear of reprisal. And ultimately, that's what it's all about. So next week, our 4th of July episode is coming. Until then, we will see you next time. And if you enjoy what we're doing here on Twitchy Dolphin Media, please hit that like button, that subscribe button, leave a comment, send a smoke signal, Morse code, whatever you got to do to tell your friends to keep watching so we can keep making fun content. Honestly, I'm going to keep making it anyway. So it would make me feel better if people were, watching.